Good evening, Barbados, and welcome to another edition of DLP TV, Honest Voices for the People. My name is Malissa Howard, and I am your host for tonight. Tonight, we confront a moment that says everything about this government: the resignation of the minister responsible for housing. Let's be clear, this is not just about one man. It is about a government that promised hope and delivered hopelessness. A government that used the dream of home ownership as political propaganda while hiding the truth from the people. Families are still waiting on homes. Young professionals are priced out. Communities see ribbon cuttings but never receive keys. And when the Public Accounts Committee tried to investigate hope, the government blocked it. When pressure rose, the Prime Minister herself promised an investigation, but that promise was broken. The minister may have stepped down, but the responsibility to the people does not step down. With me tonight is Mr. Ensley Grainger, the candidate for St. Michael East. And to his right is Senator Ryan Walters, candidate for St. Michael Northwest. Next to him is Dr. Damri Armstrong, the candidate for St. Michael North. And to her right is Mr. David Waldron, the candidate for St. George North. So let's take a moment to listen to a video that we have for you tonight.
The initiative is a public-private sector partnership, and plans are at an advanced stage for a big housing project before the end of this year.
Will be 1,300 houses at Vineyard in St. Philip.
2 days later.
Good afternoon, Barbadians. After discussion, I received earlier today a request from the Honorable Dwight Sutherland to be relieved of his ministerial portfolio in housing, lands, and maintenance. I have accepted his request. He will remain as Member of Parliament for St. George South. This has been a request driven by him for personal reasons. I have asked, accordingly, the President of Barbados to appoint the Honorable Christopher Gibbs, Member of Parliament
just ask
for St.
everybody,
Michael West, as the new Minister
what are your
of Housing,
thoughts
Lands,
about
and
the
Maintenance
resignation?
as of
That's the first
tomorrow's
question.
date effectively. I thank you for your attention, and I'd like to thank both the Honorable Dwight Sutherland for his service to the government, while at the same time looking forward to working with the Honorable Christopher Gibbs in this new portfolio. Thank you very much.
So, to my panelists, what are your thoughts about this resignation? Are you shocked? David?
I am not shocked. I'm just disappointed that a few more other ministers didn't join him. Example, the Minister of Education, former Minister of Education, when we had the debacle with the survey, she should have been gone too. The Minister of Agriculture, he should be gone. A lot of promises and no delivery. Minister that was caught up in this situation with a $7,500 check, that minister should be gone too. So there's a lot of accountability that needs to be had within this government. So I think, in my mind, this particular minister that has stepped down, he seems to be a sacrificial lamb, because there are others that should have gone a long time ago.
Dr. Armstrong?
Well, my comrade mentioned stepping down, but I feel as if at this point in time, I just think the Prime Minister needs to be honest with herself and, come out and accept the fact that she may be actually firing some of these ministers. There is no need for the Barbados Labour Party to continue to save face. Barbadians see through the facade. I think they're now waking up to understanding, how much peril we are in as a country. And people seem to be surprised by this resignation, but the Honorable Minister has never managed a successful ministry. Look at the last time that they ran, 2018 to 2022, Minister of Sport, then he went from sport to small business. And now we went from small business to housing. So it seems as if the Prime Minister may be trying to continue to appease the Honorable Minister. Well, I guess now sitting on the back bench, we would decide what we will call him going forward. But at this point in time, I feel as if the incompetence of this administration just keeps repeating itself. And I do feel that Barbadians deserve better at this point in time.
Brian?
Good night to everyone. Glad to be back here, all my comrades. I would say it's a phrase. But I will also say that it speaks to our word that Don just used, competence. And Barbados has tolerated certain level of incompetence by this government over the last 7 years. Don alluded to the fact that Dwight Sutherland held 3 portfolios in 7 years. Other ministers will be shuffled around for their competence. You see people moving from tourism to energy. You see people moving from all over the place. Right?
Digital transformation to health.
So the key word tonight, and Don said it, is incompetence. And as we go through this program, you're going to see the incompetence of this government as it relates to housing and lands and maintenance. It is a significant neglect of this government with this ministry. And we have to prove to walk through with agents.
Ensley?
Right. Mr. Sutherland's resignation should not be taken in isolation. He's just about one of many ministers who have resigned in this government. In the case of Marcia Cattle, she resigned twice. But this came as a surprise because 2 days earlier, Mr. Sutherland was pronouncing over a project of 1,300 houses
By the end of the year.
to be built by the end of this year. 2 days later, the Prime Minister is saying that after discussion, she has accepted his resignation. It begs the question, did he jump or was he pushed? If he jumped, what caused him to jump? If he was pushed, who pushed him and for what reason was he pushed? So a minister resigning, a government minister resigning, is not something to be taken or seen as lightly. It is not a footer, but it's a header. And there's more in the mortar than the pestle in this situation.
All right, Don, you mentioned competence. So what does this resignation reveal about the competence at the top?
The government at this point in time, and I think now when we mention the government, we're really speaking of one individual. The Prime Minister only seems to appear when she accepts resignation from her ministers. And to be fair, I feel as if, as I said before, Barbadians deserve better. And it starts from the head. And I hear people saying all the time, well, if the Prime Minister doesn't run the country, who will? I think anybody at this point in time could run the country. And, we are here as a political party. And I definitely do feel it is time for the Dems to take control of the government. We just saw elections spread across the Caribbean, and we know that we may well be into our season. We know that as the dominoes fall, truthfully, the government is weakened. St. George South being a traditionally red seat in itself now is questionable. And I do believe that it is time for Barbadians to begin to consider the Democratic Labour Party as a serious alternative with respect to this government's incompetence. And as we sit here, we recognize that each of us at any given point in time could hold any portfolio and do a way better job than the Barbados Labour Party.
So, Grainger, from a governance perspective, is the resignation enough, or should deeper accountability follow?
I would say that the resignation is not enough. After the resignation, what? we have the Hope scandal. We have $60 million down the drain. The resignation does not prevent the taxpayers from having to pay that $60 million. There has been no accountability in Hope, and for such a large amount, what you would say, wastage of public funds going down the drain. So that the resignation of the minister does not in itself cure the wrongs, I would say, that has gone on in Hope and in the Ministry of Housing. More has to be done. There needs to be more transparency and accountability on the part of this government. A government that preached in 2018 through the length and breadth of this country about transparency, accountability, and corruption. More needs to be done.
David, do Bajans see this resignation as one man's problem or a proof of a wider collapse in the government?
Obviously, this government has had issues from the beginning. And why the collapse? We can look for it. There have been so many missteps as far as this government is concerned. And I mean, you really seriously take a look at what has been happening to Barbadians in Barbados for the last 7 years. It is clear that a lot of these ministers don't function. They don't. By the time a lot of by the time this season is over and they just get the relief they deserve, then by the time they get a new Democratic Labour Party government, most of these ministers would not have had any ministerial experience because they were not allowed to function. So it is the problem is a big problem. We got a large cabinet, and it's a large dumpsy cabinet. They don't know how to run no ministries because the only person that making the decision is the boss lady. So no, it's no wonder these people look so incompetent as they try. They're going to fail all the time because they're not getting any ministerial experience. They're being stepped over all the time. So they're going to fail all the time. These failures will continue to happen under this government.
Ryan, you're our spokesperson on housing, and you've been constantly warning us about the failures of Hope. Does this resignation confirm your warnings that you have been giving us?
Let me say that from inception, this government has not shared the philosophy on housing. What is the philosophy? We're not talking about Hope alone. This is their philosophy on how they would approach their policy direction so that they can provide affordable housing to the country, right? To vulnerable Barbadians. There are a group of Barbadians that are able to afford housing on the market. And the role of the government is to provide an avenue for them. They can access affordable housing. So the government has not shared their philosophy on how they plan to achieve that. If you go back in time, you would only come to know that I'm saying it, but only since 2022, after the last year election, that you've heard about housing. Under Minister Duguid, I think it was.
Yes.
For that first 3.5 years, they built no homes in this country. None. So since 2022, then you started to hear about these grand plans about 10,000 homes in 5 years and all the fancy talk, because again, it was more about PR. But the philosophy that grounds the ministry is not there. Right? As I said, this is a conversation about the Ministry of Housing, not isolated to Hope, which I know that we get into a little more.
Yeah.
But you have a situation where land titles are not passed to be agents in the housing estates.
Mm-hmm.
Policy previously promoted and executed by the Democratic Labour Party. Persons who are renting units for over 20 years
Rent to own program.
have access
Mhm.
to own these units. That was stopped. But now what the MPs in the areas that are doing, they're walking around now trying to re-engage persons because it is a political gimmick for them. Elections are coming, or we can help you get the house. On a previous policy that was stopped by them. You have housing estates that do not have a depot. Dickens Farm, Fernhurst, Rosemont, in St. Michael Northwest. There was a depot in Dickens Farm that has been closed.
This is
since
maintenance.
last year. This is maintenance. This is last year. So those persons have, instead of going around the corner or calling down the road or taking a stroll down the gap to see about an issue they have to call all over this place to find out how somebody can come to attend to them. When they call, there's no money to buy a window, there's no money to fix a roof, there's no money to fix a door. They are told they have to purchase these things, and they will send the human resource to attend to the situation. And then, so everything is a problem for this National Housing Corporation, for this Ministry of Housing. It is not isolated to war, it is a bigger picture. And the next thing that I would highlight today is the fact that you cannot be giving away our opportunities in terms of construction for large companies. I think I raised this the other day, where the minister, before he resigned, he said that they're moving to a more commercial type construction of houses because of the scale that they're going at. In a small society like Barbados, you're going to move away from giving our small contractors, our artisans, our laborers, our young men and women, in many instances, work and move towards giving large corporations who are using industrial standards and methods mass production to build out.
Not just that, they're importing foreign labor.
But we'll come to the implications of those things as we go through the program. But I just want to share that with you, that since 2018, there's been no grounded philosophy that is telling Barbadians that this government is going in the direction of providing affordable homes to Barbadians.
All right, so let's delve a little deeper into the hope. A program launched with fanfare, but riddled with secrecy and failure. So Ensley, the Public Accounts Committee was blocked from investigating hope. Legally, what does that say about transparency?
I'm going to start by saying that the Public Accounts Committee was enacted to be the watchdog on government spending. To have the Public Accounts Committee stalled either by political maneuverings, it begs the question, what has government to hide? So with the Public Accounts Committee being sidelined from carrying out its duty, then the scrutiny of government spending becomes weakened. And it caused then the average man in the street to lose confidence in how his government is spending his hard-earned taxpayers' dollars. Because the money that is spent is not government's money, it's the public's money. And the hard-working men and women of this country, they have got to pay it back. So the Public Accounts Committee has that mandate to scrutinize government and to bring about its shortcomings, its failures. But if the Public Accounts Committee is being stifled, then the public is unable to know how their dollars are being spent. And it suggests that there is some form of a cover-up
Mhm.
by government to shield or to hide certain felicities. And we know the Public Accounts Committee under our comrade leader, when attempted to carry out an investigation into Hope,
Mhm.
was sidelined. And to this day, no one knows the true status of Hope. We recall that last year's budget, when comrade leader unmasked Hope, the Prime Minister, in an attempt to save face, got up. There will be an investigation into Hope. We are still waiting today for that investigation.
Mhm.
But what you get, we got a resignation from the minister. Still no accountability on Hope.
So she has promised an investigation, but she has done nothing. So Ryan Waters, what does that say about her leadership?
You just said it correctly.
Mhm.
The leader of the opposition had the Prime Minister busy with the response to the budget 2020. No matter how they turned, they were shocked by his responses and the things that he uncovered to
Mhm.
Barbadians. And I know that Barbadians are very, very, very grateful for the work that he has done over the last year and a half or so. But the Prime Minister has this thing about just saying things on her feet. Recently, she announced that the Carry Festa house. And then a couple of days after, a minister is congratulating her.
Mhm.
We thought that would be a cabinet decision to make the facility a permanent place and give it a name.
Mhm.
But you hear her own team coming out and congratulating her. But if it is this individual who is having all the ideas and making all the decisions, and then they have to go with it.
And let me pause you a little bit. Yesterday, there was an announcement that the government, since you mentioned Carifesta, the government is about to purchase the land opposite the botanical gardens that hosted the Carifesta. Do you think that this has anything to do with the resignation?
I don't know it has to do with resignation, but I know it's messy.
Mhm.
Because how are you, in this instance, how are you making something a permanent home and you have not secured the property in which the house will be built?
4 acres.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things happening, and as the other panelists have alluded to, the Prime Minister is making these decisions.
Mhm.
I heard the incoming minister speak about a couple of things, like if he's going to have some level of autonomy. It is highly unlikely
Mhm.
that he will. So I don't think that Bajans expect any change from the norm, which is we can build 10,000 homes because the headline sounds good. And when people don't read between the lines, that's what they take away.
Mhm.
They have built less than 1,500 homes since they came to office.
Mhm.
The government, I'm not talking about the private sector, they have wasted close to $100 million since they came to office in housing alone. $60 million in Hope, $27 million in the imported steel frame houses. They have committed taxpayers by going to the pre-concours and these companies with the prefabricated houses.
Mhm.
They have committed, based on the Auditor General report, an additional $30,000 a home
Mhm.
when compared to having a house constructed,
Traditional block.
traditional blocks. This is what this government is doing. Furthermore, the government went to Guyana and decided to import prefabricated wooden homes now.
Yes.
Again, cutting out our small contractors. $20-something million, over $20 million. And the thing about this now is that when the hoses came, the missing bolts and screws and parts, they can't assemble them properly. When they went down to Guyana, the company that was contracted by somebody at home or somebody in the NHC.
The company in Guyana was vetted by the National Housing, and then that company was then passed on to Hope.
Subsequently, after they went, but after they went, no, this is what they found: that Barbados was the biggest client.
Yes.
And they did not have a client in excess of $100,000. But we sent millions of dollars of Barbados dollars down there for them to build houses and parks and sign up for us, for our young men, our small contractors to assemble them. At almost $100 million that we are aware of. So when you see the highlights of 17 homes and 20 homes, it is costing taxpayers millions of dollars.
Wastage.
Because of decisions of this government. So a house that would have cost X originally cost X plus 50% more. But the persons that the houses are targeting can only pay X. So the 50% more come back to the taxpayers, when that could be another house or another 2 houses in some instances. So the record is poor. But back to your original question, all roads lead to the Prime Minister. I do not for one believe that these deals are being signed or have been made in isolation of her.
No, she's the minister of big words.
So I think where we are today is that we are in a sad state when you have such wastage, such corruption, and it continues to happen. It continues. I just said up there yesterday, we don't know how much the land will cost to acquire, to put, so that we could actually have the Carifesta house there permanently. It's still under negotiation. We didn't know about the Horton Civic Center, how much the land cost. That probably still was under consideration, and the bill went to Parliament to be passed. We don't know about the free land on 8 o'clock at night. The government went to Parliament to pass legislation to give the bank, African Bank, the land. We don't know what's happening at the old geriatric site. We don't know what's happening at Oystins. All these is commitments that the Prime Minister has made on behalf of the taxpayers. It's costing us money. We don't know how much money, and we don't know what is going to be happening at these locations.
All right, you mentioned the Auditor General report. It should be noted that the Auditor General retired earlier this year. And since then, there has not been a new Auditor General. There's someone acting in the position. Is this another way of the government stalling the business or the office of the Auditor General?
Sometimes I have to give the civil service the benefit of the doubt. There is an ad out on their website for Auditor General. I am not close enough to inside to say who applied, when they applied, when the applications, when the vacancy will be closed and stuff like that. If you're looking for somebody outside of Barbados, inside of Barbados, I don't know. What I can tell you is that it is an unattractive post because for many years, the Auditor General or the department has been complaining of the lack of human resource. That is because of the pay that is being offered for such work. There are professionals in their own right. There are certified accountants, and they in the market they are paid way more than they are being offered to work in that department. So whenever you go through the budgeting process, annual budget process, they're always understaffed, and the reason is that they can't attract the persons, and there has been no effort amidst all of the money that this government has been collected to even correct that, to even say let us strengthen this accountability that we're just talking about. Let us strengthen this department that we can have proper oversight, because it's not about my government, it's about all governments, and we must keep everybody on the right, because as was said here, we are spending, we are governing, we are managing public funds, not our own personal bank accounts.
So, Dr. Armstrong, families, they don't read audit reports. They just see broken promises. So how do you explain that hope failed because of government mismanagement and not them?
I think when we consider this, and Ryan hit the nail on the head when we spoke about philosophy. And I think one of the main philosophies of the Democratic Labour Party, as opposed to the Barbados Labour Party, is one of social empowerment. And I think this government is so disconnected with the fact that they're dealing with actual human beings. There is a level of disconnectedness with this government and its people. You know, when we look at the cost of living, and the issues aren't separate and distinct, because when we consider the majority of us on the panel as millennials, you know, people often speak about low income earners, but what about the 35 to 50-year-olds who are building their families, you know, who, you know, need bigger houses, who need to have, I guess, play areas for their children, who need to have kennels for their dogs, you know? I definitely feel there is this play into neediness with this government. So the 10,000 houses sounds nice. And, you know, housing low income earners obviously sounds nice and is needed. But then you actually forget that there is a whole group within the population that the housing plan doesn't even fit, you know? And we mentioned families, and on DLP TV in the past, we have highlighted the importance of family as a small island. We have highlighted the importance of community. And I definitely do feel that housing failing at this point in time reflects a larger problem with this government actually showing that it cares about its people. But what's even sadder is that when we consider the fact that no houses are being built, but there are so many Bajans that are borderline homeless, right? And we often say, you know, homelessness is somebody sleeping on the street and, you know, they don't have anywhere to go for the night. But there are people who literally are sleeping on couches, you know, with children, sometimes sleeping on the ground. Sometimes you go to canvas at a house and you see there are 5 and 6 people in a 2-bedroom household, you know, and people will say, oh, well, they're family and they're always welcome, but are they living comfortably? So my thing is, when you consider the human-centered approach to politics, I think this Barbados Labour Party has forgotten the fact that they came into office with people who have voted for them. We're not robots. You know, people went in and cast the X because they believe in this vision that the Barbados Labour Party was selling. But I could tell you for a fact there are people sofa surfing, couch surfing. Well, we can't even call it couch surfing because a couch is expensive now. You know, airbeds, I suppose, because, you know, people don't want to throw people out, but people literally don't have a permanent or at least long-term roof over their heads. So it is not so much so to get rid of the Minister of Housing and to bring somebody else. It is actually trying to solve this issue of homelessness, and you can't put it to the Barbados Vagrant Society, whatever the name is. I can't say the name because it doesn't register anymore, you know, because every person who is borderline homeless is not going to pick up and go to an institution to ask for help. And really, they should not have to. You know, we are creating a generation of people who are needing to literally beg this government, you know, to provide for its people, when truthfully this government has a mandate to ensure that each of us are socially secure. And again, I will continue to say, when we consider the Democratic Labour Party and the work that the party has done, we have always placed people first.
And part of this mismanagement, this government failed to have an agreement with financial institutions when persons of a lower income that they were supposed to be targeting for these homes went to get mortgages. They could not get the mortgages. And that was one of the failures of the hope. Yeah.
Right, I wanted to.
Yeah.
But Don was,
Oh, I would.
no, but see, when you talk about low income earners, you have to define what is low income.
True. True.
Because the whole project targeted persons with a maximum salary of $4,000 net of income tax in the first instance.
Initially, yes.
And then it changed. It was revised to $6,000 a month.
And then to
because of the mishandling of the budget. Right? So is that a low income? Is that the person that Don is referring to? Now, when you go on the road and you knock these houses and you are inquiring about the livelihoods of these persons that there are 2 bedrooms and 8 persons with 3 little children in the house. And not that the persons do not want to help themselves, but it's because they are operating in a bracket, but they are not being provided for.
Correct.
And that is where the National Housing Corporation should operate within that mandate. Right? Obviously, we cannot forget our middle class persons or persons that are a little more have a little more earning capacity, etc. And there are options that can be considered to deal with those persons. I don't believe that the government's role is to go and build houses and stuff them down people throat. There has to be opportunity for the government to provide affordable land that persons can also build the home that they want as well and create the neighborhoods that they want. So there's a place for everything. It can't be that the government is only going to wall structures when there are persons that can have a starter home or a combination of a wall
and
and a wooden structure that is more feasible for them and their pockets. These are realities. A lot of us grew up in full board houses. Let me be real. Full board houses with the pit in the bottom. That's the reality. Then we moved on and on and on. For me, I grew up, my grandmother, 2 bedrooms, not enough people. I can't count them. My aunts, my cousins, uncle, everybody. We moved out into another board house environment, with toilet in the back, same way. Then we moved from there into a government unit, 2 bedrooms, still a big family, making it work. And then we moved from there, and subsequently we moved other places, right? But the point is, the government has to provide the facility that people can do just that.
Social
Move,
mobility.
move.
And
There's some that will stick and they may be comfortable, but if you continue to create that environment to get them even more comfortable, they will move. But you have to create that framework. And the National Housing Corporation, you would hear the leader of the opposition say, this government has moved away. And the reason why they have moved away, it seems to be they can mishandle the funds. They have more access to the money. In the coffers of the National Housing Corporation, it may be a little more difficult to do that. It's just my assumption.
You think, but under this current mechanism, the money is more in the hands of private companies instead of national housing. So Warren, would you say that because it's in the hands of the private sector now, that the cost of housing has gone into the hands of the lower class and the middle class of Barbados?
As Ryan said, the philosophy of the housing system, the system that was set up, it was set up to deal with a certain sector. This government seem not to realize that there's a class that falls below $4,000. Are they living? Are these people living in Barbados? Because I know many persons that can't clear $3,000. So we have a government. Some people, I can't use all the words that people say, but some people call this government a big mouth government. It's not insulting, meaning that they can only operate when they have a lot of money. But they also have this thing where they don't seem to recognize that they're poor Barbadians. They don't seem to recognize that there are people among us who don't work for $4,000. And the reality is that the Democratic Labour Party historically has been the government that has taken care of the poor working class people of Barbados. And if the poor working class people of Barbados don't recognize this, then they are in trouble. The Democratic Labour Party has the record of taking care of the poor working class. And I'm speaking specifically the poor working class people. You have to go with the party that is tried and proven. not the party that like big announcements,
Mhm.
big pronouncements, and fall back on all the promises that they made. You need a party, a government that has people in it, like Ryan Walters,
Mhm.
like Don Marie Armstrong, Dr. Armstrong, like Mr. Grainger. We need, the people of Barbados need to recognize that this government don't recognize poor people.
Hmm.
They don't recognize poor people. Look at COVID. Look and see where all the money went. As if $350 million is small money
Mhm.
to a certain class of people. But then you have people that lost businesses during COVID, people that lost jobs during COVID and got mere pittances. Just like recently the $300. We have to feel so grateful for $300. And if you go in the supermarket to shop, doing monthly shopping, $300 is a waste of time, right? Some homes, $300 can't even pay the bills. So the reality is that this government is out of touch with the average Barbadian. Out of touch.
All right, we have a comment online from Vihoy. If the homes are in the hands of the private contractors, how do you then make the homes affordable and profitable? I'm gonna let Ryan answer this one.
Private contractors, you mean if private contractors are actually constructing the homes?
Mhm. I can only assume.
But look, if it is a private development, the developer has to decide his rate of return, etc. But
Mhm.
if it is a public-private partnership, the government has to lead. The government has to lead. As I said before, it is not the concept of a private-public partnership that is the issue. It is the levels that this government has gone to
Mhm.
to put money in persons' pockets.
Mhm.
And it is important for us to know at this stage, just to take a couple things from this Auditor General report from board, because I guess the listeners hear us talking all the time.
Mhm.
The viewers are listening, but they don't go and read the report. But I just want to summarize a couple of things
Mhm.
that will link back to that, right? Port was financed $40 million from the Housing Credit Fund, and then $21 million additional for the fabricated houses from National Housing Corporation for Guyana.
Mhm.
The Auditor General's report says there was no evidence of a plan. In other words, the government did not have a plan
Mhm.
on how they are going to spend this $40 million or furthermore the $61 million. There were no project objectives were provided.
Mhm.
There were no milestones provided. No key performance indicators were identified, and no risk mitigation strategies were identified. The renewable energy sector was supposed to be involved in the project.
Mhm.
No connection to the grid. Only 2 homes have panels.
Mhm.
This is the Auditor General independent report. This is not the Democratic Labour Party.
Or the BLP.
The government had no title for land, as we saw at Pool in St. John. 2 homes had to be demolished. So the oversight and the supervision of the project was that poor, that 2 homes had to be fully demolished. But here's the thing that we're talking about now.
Mhm.
The affordability of the houses. The government committed $64 million in precast structures, which they had no authority to do. The company had no authority to do that. $64 million. Further in the report, you heard that $64 million is $30,000 more per home than if they would have used traditional blocks.
Mhm.
In other words, the young men, women, the small contractors, laborers, the masons, tailors, and so forth, to get out there and do the work. But they have committed to $30,000 more a house. So if you give a contractor a $64 million contract,
Contract.
let me break it down. Actually, if you give a contractor 5,000 homes, because you've been in 10,000. And you give him $30,000 more on each home that he's supposed to get. Do the math. So that is what this government is engaged in, and that is why the price of the houses are not coming down. Mismanaging and bad deals. Significantly bad deals. You import the houses from, and back to the,
Guyana.
from Guyana. You import houses from Guyana. And each of those homes imported from Guyana is at a loss now of $125,000 a home. So 11 homes is $1.3 million. And it's supposed to be 350 homes. So that is about $43.7 million in overruns that this government would commit to. For board houses, board and all houses, my friends. These are not two-story homes with pools in the back. This is not schools. $43.7 million in schools could be rebuilt. Polyclinics could be rebuilt. Hospital, a new hospital.
Could be upgraded, yeah.
Then you hear about the site in St. Lucie, where there's now a construction zone. And we had the hospital during COVID.
Well, not a construction zone, but a storage facility now for a construction company.
Same thing, construction zone. You can't walk in there. You go put a hard hat, and you go put on your caution jacket and go down there. But taxpayers' money again, how much money did we borrow to build up that facility to now turn it into
storage
for equipment and all that? For what? Is it a public partnership? We don't know. I thought it was fully private.
But you mentioned equipment. Where is all the equipment that was in this facility before? They're not at the hospital, so where are they?
Even with Hope Premium, because it's got Hope Premium, but the more affluent persons. And that had issues. Those persons were in the news media complaining about the quality of homes from the same person that they turn on and sign that deal with. I'm not saying that they cannot use the prefabricated homes. I'm saying there has to be a sensible arrangement that is a mix, a blend of prefabricated and traditional blocks. And it has to make sense. Normally we see prefabricated buildings as commercial type buildings, not one story homes.
Correct.
We build that and so forth, but it is the arrangements that the government is getting into that is the issue, not necessarily the public-private partnerships, which has been existing for many years. But taking the autonomy out of the National Housing Corporation has also done that.
All right, so let's transition a bit and focus on the community that is most affected by this, St. George South. Don, you were the previous candidate for the Democratic Liberal Party in this constituency. What are the residents of St. George telling you about this current development?
Honestly, I think the constituents are ready to ditch Dwight Sutherland. That's the truth. They always say he focuses on Ellerton. Ellerton is a stronghold. I've had the chance to really get out there between 2021, 2022. And I really feel as if even Ellerton residents feel neglected by the former Minister of Housing. And one would think that now that he has lost his job, that he would have enough time to focus on the constituents. But I do believe that now is the time for the Democratic Labour Party to get into St. George South in our numbers. We've had the seat 2008. We would have had the seat. And Esther did a stellar job as a minister and as a former MP. And I do believe it is time for the seat to return to the Democratic Labour Party. And they've traditionally said that St. George South is one of those compass seats that if we are able to turn St. George South blue, then we are able to win the election. So I definitely do believe that You know, we know the work that we are putting in behind closed doors, and it would be, you know, out of place for me to speak prematurely, knowing that Ralph isn't present. But I definitely do feel it is time for the constituents as St. George South to consider an alternative. Dwight Sutherland does not own St. George South. The St. George South does not belong to the Barbados Labour Party. If you look statistically at the seat, voter turnout was extremely low in 2022. Having bragged about earning the most votes in an election back in 2018, the sitting MP would have lost some 2,500 votes, I do believe, between 2018 and 2022, between 15 to 2,500, sorry. So the seat is definitely in decline. And it is something to really consider now, because no constituent wants to know that their member of parliament has been demoted in office. So one could question whether or not he is even capable now of representing them, you know, leaving the ministry up in arms. And truly, I definitely do feel that it is time for the Barbados Labour Party to lose the government. It is time for the Democratic Labour Party once again to step up and lead, as we have traditionally done. It is time for us to return to our roots with respect to steering this country in the right direction. And I definitely do believe that we are ready to take government.
But you stated that he has been demoted,
Mhm.
but no real explanation has been given to the public about
Mhm.
this demotion. Waldron, are you seeing similar neglect in St. George North?
Like Don Marie just said,
Mhm.
I think the people must understand that the Democratic Labour Party is ready. There's a myth afoot in Barbados, and it's being fueled by the media,
Mhm.
that the Democratic Labour Party is a confused place. I had a conversation at the forum on Tuesday with some my good friends from the other side, and they agreed with me that the media in Barbados is very biased, and the stories always go against the Democratic Labour Party. They always seem to want to throw fuel on a fire, even if the fire is burning. They're just tossing fuel. And the reality is that Barbadians need to look past this mediaization of a bad Democratic Labour Party.
Mhm.
It's not so, but it is being sold to the people of Barbados. And they don't know the truth. That's the problem. They don't know the truth. We have a tough job as candidates trying to help people to understand that the Democratic Labour Party is ready. But I want to say this to you.
Mhm.
Don't mind what the media say. The confusion is really over the other side of here.
Well, that is very
There's
evident.
major confusion
Yeah.
over the other side. And the effort to divert the attention towards the Democratic Labour Party, it is becoming futile now. Because persons are recognizing where the confusion really lies. Hold on.
Mhm.
Jimmy Cliff will tell you they're on their one last mile. And they just now.
We had about 4 ministers that have resigned in the last 7 years under this administration. What would you say is the real reason that no real explanation has been given to the public about the resignation of the housing minister?
You really want me to answer this?
Yes, I do.
I can cause problems. The reality here is that has this government ever explained anything to Barbadians? Don't this government always just come and throw things at Barbadians? Over the last 7 years, all the new government policies and government papers, everything that's been brought to the parliament, it's almost as if Barbadians don't have any real educational wealth.
Mhm.
Because our parliament, I don't see much of what they have brought to the house being thought out and done by Barbadians. A lot of the things, a lot of the bills that they bring to the House Assembly, a lot of these bills, a blind man can see, are foreign. They're foreign to Barbadian culture. look at all of them. The digital ID, the cybercrime bill, now the cashless society. All these things are foreign to Barbados. None of these things are thought out in this country, but yet we have a very intelligent country, a highly educated Barbados, but we are waiting for on brains somewhere else to decide what is good for us. And I find that to be very insulting to the academics in Barbados. Very, very insulting.
Ryan, what does this resignation mean to the government's overall housing policy?
There's no policy. As I say, the government gets it, makes proclamation on things that sounds good. But when you look at the record, and this is the record is that between 2018 and 2022, we are not told how much homes were built because it's very likely that none were built between that time. 2022 to now, we start to hear 10,000 homes.
5 years.
5 years, over 5 years. The former minister is on record stating that they have not built more than 1,500 homes today. So they're way behind. They're like 8,500 homes behind, and they only have like almost 2 years to go. So they have no record because there's no policy. They do not know what they are doing. So they are throwing ideas out there that sound good, make good headlines, get people excited, but when it's time to actually have that reality, is not being achieved. You're moving home ownership to persons up to $4,000 that could afford. When you put the project on the ground, it's up to $6,000. So out of the reach of poor people again. You move the maintenance programs out of the estates. You refuse to pass title to persons all across this country with the 20-year program. They are lost. They are not putting the resources where they're supposed to be put. All the wastage. $27 million in overruns. And I know people, I keep saying the numbers so you understand the reality. $27 million in overruns for the steel frame homes, $60 million in hope, the commitment of $15 million more, $37 million more for precast, prefabricated homes if the government was to continue with that program. $17 million if the government continues importing homes from Guyana. That is what this government is doing. And this is not the cost. This is the cost overruns. It's not the cost of the projects. This is the cost overruns. This is the wastage. And this is the mismanagement, and this is the corruption that is going on in this government. So nothing can get kept going. But all of that money could have been, as it was in the Democratic Party, providing home solutions for the average
Barbadian
person in this country.
So Ensley, we haven't heard you in a little bit. Does a resignation erase responsibility for decisions already made?
No. The resignation of the former minister does not validate or erase any decisions that he would have made on behalf of the government. The resignation merely ends his authority as minister of the state, minister of housing. But any contract, any plan, any that he had committed the government of Barbados to still exists unless challenged either legally through some form of review. So the resignation itself does not erase and will not erase anything that under his stewardship the Ministry of Housing was committed to. But I want to go back to something that not really what I said and was right. I think it is time for the people of Barbados to understand that the Democratic Labour Party is back. And the Democratic Labour Party is ready to assume the reins of governance in this country once again. You have seen over and over repeatedly how this government has failed you. One thing after another. We look at the vaccine scandal, we look at Hope, we look at Gemmett's Lane, we look at Whole Town. And all of this is your monies being spent, your government being untruthful to you. And it is time that you understand that the Democratic Labour Party, led by the Honorable Ralph Thorne, is ready, we are willing, and we are able to do what is necessary for you and by you.
Well said. I'm just going to remind the audience, the viewers online, to send in your comments, your questions, and we will answer you as the program goes along. So we have some couple questions from some viewers, and this one is to Ryan Walters. I've been on a housing list for years. What would the Democratic Labour Party do differently?
Housing list for years. Well, this is the National Housing 20,000 person list.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen. In conjunction with building homes, which is the challenge in terms of the volume, it is also giving persons the capacity to be able to afford homes and lean off the government as well. Right? Don't talk about that whole social fabric. Cost of living feeds directly into being able to afford a home. Right? So we have to, along with having a good ministry of housing, we have to have good social programs, and we have to be able also to deal with the high cost of living that persons are experiencing. Control costs where we can. But as it relates to the housing list specifically, there are probably so many persons on that list that have found alternate housing already. We need to go through that list and purge that list. We need to start to look to see what these persons really want and offer solutions for those persons. Because we feel, or sometimes we feel that persons want one thing when they really want something else. Some people might only want land. Some people might be happy with a 2-bedroom home. Some people happy with a 4-bedroom. Somebody might be happy to rent. Somebody might be happy with a wall and wooden home. So there are different solutions that we need to roll out that make sense, that are practical, that then we can start to fit people in. Because if you're on a long list and your priority, you can be escalated because of your priority, then you do that. But if you're on the young list and you got to wait on the long list in line, and all the projects coming down don't even suit your budget, don't even suit your need in terms of the size of your family, etc. You're nowhere. So I've actually heard people say that when they're told about projects, it does not fit with their budget or it does not fit with their family. So if we start to really get into the applicants to understand their needs, then we can start to fulfill the needs. But a Democratic Party government must offer a variety, a suite of offerings, suite of options that can tap into different aspects of our communities, not just one.
All right, Dr. Armstrong, we have a question for you. Why should we trust the Democratic Labour Party when governments always disappoint?
The truth is, when we speak about trustworthiness of government, I think it comes back down to the type of politicians that we elect, you see. And I do know that traditionally in the country, there is this habit of voting for party. And when people are unable to look beyond partisan politics, you know, the same mistakes will be made. So we see with Dwight Sutherland, you know, everything is blown wide open now. But his record in St. George South, when you consider the representation or the lack thereof, is all in the same. But he's a MP for the Barbados Labour Party. You know, they have Mia Motley as their leader. So therefore, the vote goes to Dwight Sutherland. So when Barbadians speak about, you know, dishonesty and politicians being dishonest, we also have to recognize that within ourselves, we are the ones that vote for these individuals, you know, and when we stay home and decide that we're not voting, indirectly we contribute to these persons remaining in office because we don't see the value in our vote. But I tell you for a fact that when the majority comes out now to vote for the people that they want, and when I speak about integrity, you know, I've seen some of the best politicians not walk up the steps of parliament all because they were not popular. I've seen some of the best politicians not get portfolios all because they were not liked by their prime minister, you know. And oftentimes we have to put those things aside and those feelings aside and judge people based on their merit, judge people based on their character, judge them based on their professional track records and their capacity to not just lead but actually deliver. And when we actually get the right people in office, and I say this with every confidence when I consider my comrades here and beyond, you know, the opposition office and into George Street, when we weigh each other equally and we recognize that, you know, when it comes to working with Ryan, I have no doubt, you know, if Ryan ever receives a portfolio of housing in the future, you could see in yourself a future minister of housing. Anybody that could bring the figures that were brought to you today and show you the amount of mismanagement with this government deserves a seat in parliament, you know. And I do feel it is time for us to look beyond, you know, the Barbados Labour Party. And I will always say, look to the Democratic Labour Party, look at the track record of the party, look at the social change that came about under the Democratic Labour Party. You know, they say, oh, well, you all are still focusing on the philosophies of a dead man. Absolutely. Because that dead man ensured that in 2025, persons like myself and other persons were able to not just even rise to become upstanding citizens, but global citizens, to take ideas from, you know, other parts of the world to bring back home to ensure that we have a Barbados that is not just, you know, visible by others on the outside because of the leader that we have, but to ensure that each of us have that level of social responsibility to show that we are our own shining stars as it stands. So when it comes to the dishonesty and, you know, politicians and all politicians are all the same, I would say sometimes we like it so, because if we didn't like it so, what happened in 2022 would have never happened, right? So we have to ensure that whether it is 2026 or 2027, whether it is 2025, because, you know, the saying elections calling this year, we don't know. You know, we got to wait at the women fancy the prime minister to know when elections are being called. But we as Barbadians have to decide whether or not we like it so, because one could arguably say that these ministers are dishonest. You know, Ryan has not come out and said that the money is being pilfered, or, you know, one can't say that kickbacks weren't given or whatever. We would never defame the government in such a way. But where is the money? Is there going to be a report now on the Ministry of Housing to show where these funds have gone? Will the Prime Minister, after accepting the resignation, now come back to the public and say that this is where the money has gone? Will we? We don't know. But when you speak of dishonesty right now, you have to point at Robert Street and the Barbados Labour Party. Yes, spot the light.
Ensley, a question from the viewers. If the Public Accounts Committee was blocked, can ordinary citizens do anything legally?
Well, I think there are a number of legal things that they can do. They can march. They can make demands of the various MPs. We need to hear you agitate in government. We want to know something, how this money from Hope has been spent, where it gone. They can take the social media. They can do their reels and whatever, and put pressure on the government through and their MPs to respond to their concerns. Whether they will do it is another thing. But we have heard from Ryan here tonight exposing grave concerns as it relates to housing. The Barbados Labour Party has never come to the people of Barbados and said this to them. This government is cloaked in secrecy to the detriment of the masses and the taxpayers of this country. So I think that if the public are so dissatisfied with what this government is doing in terms of not allowing your watchdog, the Public Accounts Committee, to agitate and investigate on your behalf, then there are things, march,
Petition.
keep some noise, petition your MPs, and if you don't get answers from them, you know what to do when the next election is called. I am here, Wayne is here, Dr. Armstrong is here, David is here, Melissa is here, Comrade Leader is out there, and the others. We are ready for you.
Well said. All right, Walburn, we have a question for you. Has hope failed rural communities worse than others?
Obviously, the rural communities would be more impacted with the whole failure, because a lot of the projects were based in rural Barbados. And if you live in certain communities and you see a housing project and you're young man or woman, just got married and looking to move out from home, you're looking for somewhere probably close to the community where you grew up and where you would know people, and you would want to live as close as possible to where your neighbor string buried. So yes, the failed hope has failed the people in the rural Barbados. And to segue a bit, I don't like to miss these good important points, like what Dr. Don and was just making, and Grainger. We gotta start laughing at politicians in Barbados. I know it is an unpopular thing to say, but for politicians to say that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. There is so much distrust in Barbados for politicians, right? You know, everybody sees the next politicians as another thief.
Yeah.
It has to stop. It has to stop. People don't trust politicians because there's a record
Of
and you
missing
go
money.
to try to win people's trust. You see, integrity legislation that has been promised to the people of Barbados for a long time. You know who wants integrity legislation most? People.
Correct.
We have to deliver integrity legislation.
Yeah, this part.
We have no other choice. The Democratic Labour Party has to deliver integrity legislation. I might be speaking out of turn, but I want it. I want it. I'm a constituent too.
Yeah.
I might be a politician, but I'm a constituent. I want integrity legislation.
Yeah. It protects us as
It
well.
has to happen. The people need the protection of integrity legislation.
Yeah.
And the trust of politicians will not return until that watchdog called integrity legislation,
Correct.
the draft legislation is put in place. The people are fed up and frustrated because they see a lot of money being pilfered, wasted, thrown down the gutter. And at the end of the day, the said people has to pay back this money, you know.
If I could just add to David's point, you know, I personally don't have anything to hide, but I would really love to see the accounts of some of these ministers and MPs in this government, you know, because this dishonesty thing, it plagues all of us, because you are seemingly branded as the same without actually having a fair opportunity to show. And I think one African leader did it some time ago in Nigeria, just showed all of his accounts, you know, made accounts for his businesses, where his income was coming from, everything just in the open. And the Nigerians said, we never saw anything like this at all. You know, maybe it is time now, with all the overruns that Ryan highlighted, maybe it is time for the Prime Minister and her cabinet to bring their accounts to the Barbadian public. Let us decide who is dishonest and who is honest and who is truthful. And the Democratic Labour Party then start off by showing their accounts and showing people where the monies come from. Because it is not fair for us now looking to take government to be called, you know, opportunists and you know, you walk in as so and so and you come out as so and so. And I think the went as far as saying some of our former MPs had yachts and all types of things, you know, that really hurt us in 2018. If this government is serious about integrity legislation, I think all of them now should bring their accounts to the public so Barbadians can see where their monies are coming from, where their accounts are located, where Barbadians can see where the transactions are coming from. That $7,500 check slid under the table, but we don't know how many more $7,500 checks were received by members of parliament and ministers in this country. And we must put this issue of dishonesty to rest, because the Democratic Labour Party and its cohort of upcoming politicians need to be given a fair chance in this country. The Barbados Labour Party has single-handedly ruined politics in this country with the lack of transparency, with the dishonesty, with the so-called resignations that are given forthright. And if you look at it, you see the press release and then quit. So the Prime Minister got some backdrop in the office. How you getting these resignations so fast? I thought you had to give at least a month's notice, you know? So you need to find out if it's a certain level of damage control. We just need to know what's happening, and I think we need to know now. So I would personally like to call for the accounts of the ministers in government, so we know for a fact who is honest and who is dishonest. And I could tell you that the latter is more inclined at this point in time on that side.
I'm going to answer a question as an ordinary citizen. How would you be able to tell if the politician has declared every single one of their accounts?
A good forensic accountant.
You have accounts locally and you have accounts offshore. How would you know?
How would you know? I would say we need some good forensic accountants and some good detectives, you see. And
you want the CIA and the FBI.
No, they're private investigators you could hire to search. There is nothing that is hidden. You understand? Nothing that could be hidden if you look well enough. And I do feel if the government is not allowing the watchdog that is mandated by legislation, you understand, to look into their affairs, that the private investigators in this country need to, and I would even call it private policing if we want to take it so far, because they're wiretapping and they're listening to our conversations. Every time I answer a call on WhatsApp, I'm wondering, geez, on Brad Army, they're probably listening right now. If this government finds it necessary to illegally tap into the conversations of ordinary citizens, the ordinary citizens that possess the skills to privately investigate, these officials should come forth with the information. I could give you my email address, send it to me. I am not afraid to talk, because right now, this government needs to go. The Democratic Labour Party needs to take over, and we need to put this issue to rest.
All right, we move on to transparency and accountability. I think we jump-started it a bit just now. So transparency is the missing ingredient. The Public Accounts Committee was blocked. The Prime Minister's promise vanished. How do we fix it? Ensley, if a government blocks oversight, what legal remedies exist to force disclosure?
I'm not sure if or what legal remedies there are to force disclosure. We're speaking relatively public accounts.
Yeah.
I'm not sure as to what legal remedies there are. I don't know of any government or ministers who were legally punished for failing to allow the Public Accounts Committee to function. If there is, I speak subject to correction. What was the question again?
Sorry. What legal remedies exist to force disclosure?
Right. The remedy that should force disclosure is you being accountable. This is where I am. If you have nothing to hide, let there be full and frank disclosure of what your assets are. In terms of legal, I
The legal remedy is when elections are
Correct.
called, go and vote
No,
out the
vote.
Barbados
No,
Labour
vote.
Party. We possess the legal power to get rid of this government. And I don't know why we are so afraid to say when they wanted us gone in 2018, they called people from every hole in Barbados to vote out the Democratic Labour Party. Now it is time to put the shoe on the other foot and vote out the Barbados Labour Party. They need to go. That's the legal remedy.
This government, along with former Minister Sutherland,
Mhm.
have shown a certain level of arrogance. And is that they have no disregard to the public. I think that we're foolish. But the gathering started.
Oh, shoot.
Mr. Sutherland in January. Started in St. Lucie, right? Yes. In January, made a statement
Yeah.
that he's going to build 6,500 homes in St. Lucie. Yeah. Then he went to St. Peter. He's going to build some 1,000 houses in St. Peter. Then he's going to, this is about
Oh, so
10,000 houses. You know?
But he just coming down. Yeah, he just coming down.
Coming down.
Mhm.
You are ignorant. We have a Minister of Energy who refuses to answer simple questions.
Mhm.
The fact that they have overcharged Barbadians for 15 months with a high price at the pump. A Minister of Energy that that is over a ministry that has no force delay and power to use renewable energy, but we are paying more for renewable energy than we are paying for fossil fuels.
Mhm. Correct.
So they are carried up our like bills by going to renewable energies. What nonsense is this? And not a word from the Prime Minister, not a word from the Minister. And we have to pay these high like bills. We have to pay these high gas prices. We have a Minister of Health that says nothing at all about anything to the QEH or anything to do with health.
It is true. How
The
often?
government is disrespecting Barbadians.
Mhm.
You know what this is reminding me of? I like a lot of reading and, historically, when you consider the czars in Russia, you remember how they went? They were in the castles throwing people bread and, and before you know it, the Bolsheviks come, knock down the door, storm the castle, and everybody was gone, And I definitely feel that rumbling on the ground, that when you stay aloof with the needs of your people, there comes a time where the uprising happens, and before you know it, you are gone. And I say to Barbadians tonight, never ever repeat the mistake of 2018 and 2022, right? The Democratic Labour Party has learned their lessons, and we are taking them in stride. But what the Barbados Labour Party is doing to Barbados right now as we speak, burying it for decades to come, because if they have the opportunity to run this government even for another term, the damage that they have done will be irreversible. And this is not just because I'm a Dem. This is me as a citizen of this country, as a mother, as a sister, as a friend, as a daughter. Every Barbadian tonight needs to understand that what is happening in Barbados is not normal, and we need to regain control of our country. This country needs to be snatched from the clutches of the Barbados Labour Party.
The government, I just want to chime in a little bit here.
Go ahead.
Because we on this thing and trust. The government trick the agents. I know they think we're ignorant.
Mhm.
They trick the agents how? They said they were going to rescue us from economic issues, financial issues. The government transferred the burden, the financial burden, from commerce, not from businesses. Commerce is people going and buy, sell, activity, and they switched it households. They stopped in that NSRL. But what did you have to do? How to pay sewage tax, garbage tax,
Yes, had it pump.
double your bus fare,
The NIS fee that they added
write
now.
off your national insurance debt. So you have to work longer. But then you have to pay in more national insurance contributions. This government has not rescued Barbados. They have put us in the worst position. They, in addition to all of that, they have borrowed over close to $2 billion since coming to office.
Yeah.
So a combination of taxing, combination of transferring the burden from commerce activity to households, the write-off VAT that was owed, that you paid in when you go to the supermarket or other places of business that were owed to the government, they wrote that off.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars.
Millions.
Billions.
To do what? To then ask you to pay more taxes all the time.
Yeah.
You pay every year they talk about no budget and no tax budget. Nonsense. Levies on levies on levies. You are paying. You are paying the carry out minimum wage, and the same people that they said they were going to shield us came out and said we cannot be prices. That's the reality. So there's no way, everywhere you turn, Barbados cannot get a break with this government. And don't ever let nobody tell any member of the Democratic Party they have rescued Barbados.
Yeah.
Unemployment is what? The lowest now?
According to them.
According to them.
Yeah.
What about constituencies and see how much young people want work?
What about contractual workers, you see?
What and see, you got people now that are working 6-month contracts, year contracts. I sent an article to the paper about this whole job registry, and they said they want the government to look into this temporary contract business that they're doing with workers. And before, within an hour, I had the young people in my DMs messaging me, telling me thanks for raising that. I went to a funeral and saw a young man, and he told me that was his experience at a government institution. And he was there for 6 years, contract, 6 months, 8 months, broke, 12 months. He said he felt as though he raised his life.
Yes.
It's spilling into
So they have not done anything to rescue Barbadians.
Agreed.
The National Insurance Fund, what is the status of that? The report is due. What they call the report now? Where they look at the life of the pension funds and so forth. It's not coming to my mind now. But that is due this year.
Okay.
And that is due this year. And that would give Beijing an independent view of the state of the national insurance. That would tell us if we can expect or how fast we can expect an increase in national insurance contributions. If we have to work longer or the fund will be depleted, it will tell us about all the different funds within the debt and all the different benefits and all that. But that has to correlate with the story of this government over unemployment. So I am waiting patiently on that report, the actuarial report, right? It's a very important report, but it is due now. I think it's overdue. But the point I was making is that this government is not to be trusted. Cannot be trusted. This government, as I said, it refused to give persons homes in a 20-year program, but give away land to foreigners
For free.
on more than one occasion for free or for cheap and others.
It is true.
So we have no choice but to vote the Democratic Party next election.
I don't want it to seem like Ryan and I are volleying here from northwest to north, but it just came to me that characteristically, Ensley, Ryan, and I all share constituencies. And David could probably speak more to the rural issues, but characteristically urban constituencies and St. Michael seats. It's so interesting that we all carry the same qualities, the same characteristics. And I know Ryan could agree with me for sure with a housing scheme in Deacons, one in Eden Lodge, another in Grisettes. I think Ensley kind of borders one, the Ivy as well. You know, our constituents are suffering. Our constituents are suffering under this Barbados Labour Party. And I think the housing issue hits particularly home when you recognize that even in those same housing units, people cannot afford food. Even though rent is low and people will say, well, you're getting a little break, you should be able to. Some people still can't buy food under this Barbados Labour Party government. And I grew up as a girl hearing, once the Barbados Labour Party is in power, the masses suffer. And to come to 2025 to see it with my own eyes, you know, and to hear it each time you go out to meet people, it hurts my heart to know that the majority of Barbadians right now are on the breadline and this government does not care.
And if we were getting better, the Minister of People Empowerment would not come and say that he needs more assistance to help persons from back to school.
Back to school.
You would not see more charitable organizations having to give students school bags and shoes, hairdos, backpacks, socks.
Breakfast, you know.
I mean, this is not a country that is getting better. This is a country that is getting
worse.
And if we were getting better, the crime would not be where it is. Because when things are good, crime does not spiral.
Correct.
So this government has a lot to answer for.
I guess no wonder it's a little late. I drink some rum
I'm sweating.
All right, Ryan, we're still on you. What 3 disclosures will the DLP government publish in its first week?
First week of
Office, yes.
As relates to housing,
Housing.
well, I think we are open for housing. We'll be open for business. As I said, we need a suite of products because we have persons at different income levels. We have different persons with different needs, different family sizes, etc. Don't alluded to it before. You're canvassing and you see someone that is living at home, has a young one, and would like some place to live. But they want affordable rent. So we have something for affordable rent. You're out again, you want someone who's just a couple, wants to get together and go on their own. They might want a rent to own. You have someone who is okay enough to go and get a little mortgage, and they're pretty comfortable. The children are probably grown, etc. They don't really have the headache, but they're still youthful enough that they can go and get a mortgage either by themselves or with their partner. They can get a mortgage for them. But we would have a suite of products. We should never forget middle income people. And they have built up this country. They pay a lot of taxes in this country.
And it's disappearing now.
And we don't have to build houses for them and force them into what we design or what somebody designs or wins on a competition. We give them affordable land. Let them start to create developments that they want. Let them start to create the spaces that suit them. And there are many things that we can do in different brackets in our society. And that is what we would do. And there may not be 3 things, but for sure, a suite of products. We will put programs that fit the needs of persons. We will not turn our backs away from our small contractors, our tradesmen. We will not turn our backs on that. We will be inclusive. We will have a policy of mix of commercial type construction and block type construction, traditional construction. We will blend because we have to take care of all types of businesses in the sector.
Well said. And David, how will transparency in housing directly impact families in your constituency?
I personally know quite a few persons who been trying to get, who put down the name at the housing and national housing. And some people would have had the names down in that place some 20 years, 30 years.
Wow.
Knows nothing of what is going to become of their applications. Does that sound transparent to you?
No.
It does not sound to me. The reality is that there's always a housing need. Whether it's in rural Barbados or the urban Barbados, there's always a need for housing. And the reality is though, and this always comes back to me. We talk about housing. But we got some big problems in Barbados. Large problems. I was at a funeral and one of my constituents said to me, you know, I had to bail out a bucket this afternoon to get here. I said, so what happened? Y'all got water problems still? And this is a sweet deal. This is just down the hill from the Boiler Ridge reservoir, a pumping station. What I'm saying is that the housing, there needs to be a housing solution. But there are so many problems that are facing this country. There's still an issue with water in Barbados. There's still a lot of communities in St. George North that get water sporadic in a very sporadic way.
Mm-hmm.
There are other places probably outside of St. George North. The fact is that there are so many issues that are social in the true sense that are affecting families. The DLP had a solution for the water problem. Remember that? The South Plan. There are problems that needs attention in Barbados, but are not being prioritized by this government. Water is one.
Mm-hmm.
Water is one. I know water is a serious problem in Barbados right now, but one that we don't talk about enough. You know what worries me is when my mother said to me, "If anything happened to me, don't carry me down there at QEH." People are afraid to go to the QEH. Health is a serious issue in Barbados. People are afraid to go to the main hospital of Barbados. These are all issues that need to be focused on. Because look, reality is, excuse me, reality is that these problems that exist, these issues that exist, will follow the DLP here. We will have no other choice but to deal with the issue of water shortage, poor water delivery, to deal with the issue of the QEH, where people are afraid to go there because of the long waiting periods, right? And that the fear that it brings to the people, to people. The issue of employment or unemployment and the underreporting of unemployment, all these are issues that will come to us. But what is good about making the decision to move away from this Barbados Labour Party government is that the Democratic Labour Party traditionally don't play games with the people. We have a government that plays games with the people. Garbage and sewage tax is something as that. This comes up all the time in my campus. All the time, garbage and sewage tax. Why are we playing it? Why are we paying garbage and sewage tax in St. George North? We don't have any sewage system in St. George North. That is an issue that always comes up. Something that we might have missed. When this government came into power in 2018, as part of the agreement with the IMF, the public service was supposed to be reduced to 1/3. 1/3 of what they had. It was 33,000, around 33,000. And they went on a mission to send home 11,000. A lot of people were sent home. And part of the government's effort to fulfill the mandate, they are now switching out a lot of the government institutions, right? Moving people off the public service and putting them into working on a contractual basis. That amounts to a lack of job security. There's a lot of people in Barbados can't get a mortgage. So Brian, yes, we must think about we must think about these people and produce a housing solution and stuff like that. But there's a lot of persons in Barbados that can't get a mortgage because they're working on a contractual basis.
Yeah.
They're signing a contract every year, and that by itself will hamper them from getting a mortgage.
Every year?
So this government has made the lives of Barbadians a lot more difficult, you know. And we can't pretend around that. We can't pretend around it. And I don't like promises. I don't like making promises, especially if it's a promise that I'm not sure whether I can keep it or not.
Yeah.
But we must promise Barbadians hope. The Democratic Labour Party.
Not hope.
No.
Well, not hope. I guess hope is not a good word to use.
No.
But we must promise Barbadians
A brighter future.
a brighter future. Because as it is right now,
Bleak.
I know as Don Marie said, you go out into the community and you meet people and you see people on where they are, and you recognize the issues that the people are dealing with. Many times we can't talk about them, but we know that people are suffering.
Mhm.
We know that people are suffering. The Democratic Labour Party has to be the party to give people that brighter future. Because this government they're not doing it. They're not adding up to that.
One of the things that listeners would ask, especially those who are supporting the Barbados Labour Party, is, oh, y'all can talk about all these plans of the create and fixing housing, where we can get the money from.
Mhm.
But we must remind listeners that they are paying at least, I think, $65 to $80 million a year directly from National Insurance since 2018 into the QEH hospital. It is a check that is written once a year
From the public first. Yeah.
from the national insurance to the QEH hospital, close to $80 million a year. 80 times 7, 560 million.
Mhm.
We must remind them also that with all of the wastage that has been happening only in this ministry that we've identified and that we know of so far, close to $100 million, there is money to operate. That
Exactly.
wastage that we're talking about,
Exactly.
that is not building the homes, that is the wastage.
It's not projections,
It's-
it's
they
actual
are
money.
managing the funds. So do not let anybody tell us that they've got no money to play with.
Yeah.
We will manage the purse better. We will be more financially prudent.
Yeah.
That is how we're going to get things done.
Yeah.
But you know, right? Whenever there's a situation to improving the lives of the masses, there's always where you get the money
Money from. Yeah.
But when it comes to the other people,
Yeah.
nobody asks, nobody questions it.
No.
But as it's to uplift the man and the woman at the bottom,
Yep.
to make his life better, where you get the money from? You can't spend so much money to it.
But
You
even
can't do it.
it wasn't even a complaint about the $300. The majority of persons that waited in those lines for that money in such a dishonorable way, because to me it made some people look as if they were desperate, you know.
Mhm.
And then when the prime minister came out and said it was like, oh, shut up, I gave you all how much ever millions of dollars. You gave people back their money, you know. So even in the $300 grant, it seemed as if it bothered the prime minister so much to give the masses back a tiny piece of the pie. And you just hit the nail on the head. Any single time the masses benefit under this government, it is made to be problematic. And that is not the way it is supposed to be. And temporary, correct. Never permanent.
I'm
you
just
know?
going to remind the viewers to place their comments in the comment section, and we will try to answer them as soon as we can. So we have some questions coming from the viewers. And this question is to Ryan Walters. Why are housing costs still so high in Barbados?
The intellectual response that the government will give you is that inflation is causing purchasing increase. Well, that is a reasonable assertion. It goes back to the arrangements the government is going into. We cannot let go of the point. We've seen it clearly. Auditor General has laid it out. It is the arrangements that then determine the final price. So if the arrangements are not to your advantage as a taxpayer or prospective homeowner, you could expect the prices to be inflated, right? So I may always wonder, in the Auditor General's report, something caught my eyes. It was thought about it for a little bit, but it said that a small contractor, will earn between $5,000 and $7,500 per home. But then when you go further, you see the sort of deals being made for the construction magnates in the country.
Yeah.
Per home. $30,000 in excess of what they would normally get for what they provided for us. And it is inequitable. There's a kind of small contractor who is taking 3 or 4 months to build a home. How can he profit $5,000? And that works out to be $1,500 or so a month.
A month.
Then he's not a small contractor.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find another name for him now. But it is inequitable,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the cost of the homes, the government owns the land, can control the price of the land. The government has to make better financial arrangements with those that are charged with building out these homes.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot sign these types of deals. They cannot bring in homes or houses from
Overseas.
Guyana, for example, that will cost $125,000 more home. They cannot then move construction, as was said last week by the Minister of Housing, to commercial and move away from the traditional block and mortar. That will cost
So much more.
$35 million more for a project.
Yeah.
It is not realistic. It is not palatable. It is to the disadvantage of those trying to seek affordable housing.
Can I just ask, because Ryan is educating me here now, right? And as the question came in, and as we have been dilly-dallying with these figures now for more so the last few months, but housing has always been questionable. Since when has building housing in Barbados been for profit? I think this is the first time that I've heard of so much transactions being done, particularly at the private level in this country. Under the Dems, it seems as if housing was more of I don't even want to say a social enterprise, because even in that type of transacting, profits are garnered, but those profits are then spread back out into the community and into initiatives, and it's always been a case where there's been some level of community upliftment. But since when has housing been made so profitable in this country?
Since 2080. But the reality is that a private enterprise is in it for profit.
Mm-hmm.
The government is not in it for profit. So that's why the government is charged with providing affordable homes for citizens through the National Housing Corporation. So from my estimation, the arrangements that they make must translate into something that is affordable. And that's where the transactions become questionable. Because when you start to make those decisions, it's costing $17 million on one hand, $35 million on the other hand. Instead of building homes here locally after the hurricane, you bring in steel frame homes.
Yeah.
So you have to sign a contract, and then it costs you $23.5 million more.
Yeah.
And the houses are still not
Constructed.
Still
Yeah.
not affordable.
So it is not the practice has been carried out for many years. This how this government is executing on this practice, their mandate, because the transactions are to the benefit of somebody else.
Yeah.
And to your point, if we see the bank accounts, we might figure out who.
We might.
Yeah.
We just might.
And no one is going to get into business to make a loss.
So we
Correct.
can expect that small contractors will not make as much as a bigger contractor. There's a place for them, because they are the persons who then will get 5 and 6 young men
From the
from the
community.
community to go and build a house to learn the
Definitely.
trade, pulling from the polytechnic. They come from the polytechnic and they go and push a trolley in the supermarket.
Yeah.
So there's a real important role for small contractors in the build out of our country.
Sorry, because I feel like Brad and I are just. I've heard something very questionable, and I thought this is the opportune time to raise it, because I'm all for migration and seeking opportunities beyond your shores. But is there any truth to some of the foreign workers coming to this country and being underpaid, as in being paid dirt cheap, right? To do the work that a young man or even a woman, because I'm not going to limit construction and building to just men. Is it true that persons are being employed from the outside and undercutting our upstanding citizens and our workers from obtaining employment because the labor from overseas is cheaper?
That is a good question for the new Minister of Housing.
True. Because I do believe,
to answer.
I don't know if we have fair wage legislation here, but if it is a case where people are being brought to Barbados to work cheaper and actually putting our young men and women out to work, something needs to be done in terms of bringing this issue to light, because it means that businesses and contractors will continue to profit where our communities will continue to be at a loss, because as little as, and I've heard that some of these workers are being paid as little as a US dollar per day, right, in this country. And believe it or not, in some currencies, a US dollar is something, So even that slightest of US dollar is being sent out to Barbados, to somebody else's country. That money in itself, when you think about it, no wonder businesses are going for what they will call the cheap labor, as opposed to paying our young people here fair wages.
So you're making a very good point. And I am well aware. You just have to drive around on the construction sites.
Yeah.
There are a lot of private projects
Mhm.
who have a lot of foreign labor.
Mhm.
But the foreign labor behaves so different to a Bajan labor. My understanding is that in other jurisdictions in the Caribbean, that those foreign labor, they get paid every 6 months. But no, that's not the best. They are fed, housed, and then their money goes straight home. They don't get a check to come and buy a Guinness, nor 2 deputies, nor a rice and stew and down the road.
Right.
Because they don't need anything.
So if we continue with this level of foreign labor, which is similar to the jurisdiction that I'm speaking about in the Caribbean, this is what's going to happen. So when you hear about the foreign reserves, we have 7 months of foreign reserves. We also have low foreign direct investment. And all of those foreign reserves are being popped up for this type of activity, where we could be paying our young people here locally. But what happens when you pay a young man, young woman, or middle-aged man or middle-aged woman locally? First place you go, supermarket.
Yeah, definitely.
Second place you gone, beer.
True.
Third place you gone, give your daughter something.
So it stimulates the local economy.
It stimulates the economy.
So all of that money that is in this GDP percentage of construction, majority of that going outside. Once upon a time, you still go outside for the materials. Now we're going outside for the materials
and the labor.
Right.
So the foreign exchange or the foreign reserves is to pop up that activity and to compensate for the low foreign direct investment. Because a lot of those projects are getting locally funded by commercial banks here.
Yes. And you're only saying it on the big projects. Yeah.
So it's a valid point, but if this continues at all,
I could tell
it's
you.
going to be devastating on so many fronts.
So I can tell you.
The whole notion and question, this crime situation, right? And the excuse again, when it's for poor people, the excuse is where you get the money from. When it's for the young men on the block, they don't want no work. But if you give them decent work,
and decent pay,
they will behave themselves.
Terms, maybe they would want to work.
Ryan, I think we are treading a very, very serious lane here, because I'm not sure if many people know, but there are certain countries that have legislated a modern day slavery act. So we have to wonder, everyone know there are human rights violations going on right now within our own construction sector, and that's something that we have to be very cautious of, because if it is known that persons are leaving their countries and coming here and being paid unfairly, our country and the outlet that it could have on us potentially with respect to, human rights organizations, potentially this could be a very, very serious issue that may even fall in the lap of the Democratic Labour Party when we take government. So I think we've unpacked so many different intersecting issues, centered around housing, and it proves to you and proves to us here how crucial and how critical housing is, not even just the community development, but societal development at large. And it's left me with a lot to consider now when I see certain things as I traverse throughout the country in this respect.
So, Ensley, we have a question for you. Can the Prime Minister still be forced to investigate the whole project?
The Prime Minister can do anything that she wants. But I think the public can make that call on the Prime Minister. If she will, is another thing. But if she doesn't, well, Tony, Democratic Labour Party, we will do it.
Yeah.
as soon as we come into office when the next election is called. But she promised it last year in the budget.
Mhm.
So if you want to be true to your people, fulfill the promise that you made and get the investigation into what going.
All right, so we're coming down to our final, 5 minutes of the show. So I'm just going to ask each of you to give your closing remarks. I'm going to start with David. What is your final message to families who feel betrayed by hope? I can leave her for last.
My message to families who feel betrayed by hope: don't study hope too heavy. Hope has died.
Mm-hmm.
That animal called hope has died. The Democratic Labour Party
Mm-hmm.
has a brighter future plan for the Barbados. The reality is that when you look at the big picture, this government has failed people Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about whether you like a prime minister or whether you like a minister or whether a member of parliament good looking or whatever. It is not about that. People got to start to look inwardly and look at the fact that a lot has happened over the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things that have happened could not happen under the Democratic Labour Party, because we would be dragged all about the streets of Barbados. Not just some of the things that we have faced by this government.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Labour Party would not get away with it. But we are not praying over any spilt milk or anything at this point. We are simply saying to Barbadians, hold on, we're coming. But we are coming to bring. I don't want to use hope. to bring back the future
Yeah.
to the people of Barbados.
I can tell you.
And to give some sort of some semblance of hope
Mm-hmm.
to their living, because how we are living right now
Mm-hmm.
is not good. Too many of us are suffering, and we must step up. We must step up, save this country.
Indeed.
So, Ryan, what is your charge to the nation as elections seem to be drawing nigh?
My charge will be, I implore everybody to start to listen to the Democratic Party.
Oh dear.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Engage us. Listen to the Democratic Party. I think they're starting to listen,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is our cue to speak more, to engage more. And I think that once they do that, they will start to get a sense that we do understand the issues, as we have listed a lot of issues here today under just the Ministry of Housing, and then we looked at the implications of those. We looked at some of the solutions also.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once they start to listen, they will get to understand that we are abreast of the issues. We have a direction that we want to take ministries, and we want to take Barbados. So that would be my charge, to give us an ear, listen to us, pay some attention to what we're doing. We have some good things coming.
So, Ensley, what is the single most urgent reform needed to restore accountability?
And that
Mm-hmm.
the integrity of
Legislation.
public legislation.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Once that is done,
Everything is good.
Yep. Everything will fall into place.
what this government failed to do, even though they campaigned on it,
Mm-hmm.
they failed to implement it for reasons best known to them. But if I would just for 1/2 a second,
Mm-hmm.
just extend on what Ryan said, I want to implore on the public of Barbados, again at the Democratic Labour Party, we are here. We are ready, willing, and we are able. If you were disgruntled at some point in time before, we are here. Listen to us. See us where we are.
Right, Dr. Armstrong, in one line,
Mhm.
what should voters remember from tonight's show?
I think voters should remember that the Barbados Labour Party government is not to be trusted. I think
One line. Mhm.
the Barbados Labour Party government is not to be trusted, but as I was just being cued in, I think it would be remiss of me after speaking about housing, to let you guys know that the campaign office in St. Michael North will be officially open to the public. I'm trying to make it feel as homely as possible. So this Saturday, I'm inviting each and every one of you to our barbecue. I'll be throwing down on the grill, everything prepared with a little assistance by me. So feel free to get in touch. Mobile number 2857631, WhatsApp, or even call, or just show up. We're located in number 13 Val Gap, St. Michael. And this just goes to show you again how ready the Democratic Labour Party is when we begin to speak about our election efforts and, not being caught off guard the second time around. So come out and enjoy good food, good laugh, and we have lots of surprises in store for Saturday as well.
Right, we have come to the end of our show. I just want to thank my panelists for joining me tonight and engaging the viewers. Tonight, Barbadians saw the truth: resignation, Public Accounts Committee obstruction, a broken promise from the Prime Minister, and the collapse of hope. But you also saw something else: the Democratic Labour Party's vision, real housing, real hope, and real delivery. This is not the end, it is the beginning of change. So I just want to thank Senator Waters, Dr. Armstrong, David Waldron, Ensley Grainger, and thank you, Barbados, for tuning in. The conversation continues, the fight continues, and with your support, victory is coming. Good night, God bless you, and have a good night. Thank you for joining us. God bless.